Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm the Storytelling Advisor, your guide as we analyze all kinds of stories and the many ways they're told. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts because we have a lot of great conversations coming up and I'd hate for you to miss out. Today's episode focuses on a TV sitcom that lasted an impressive 9 years from 2005 to 2014. It was known for creating and popularizing catchy phrases like challenge accepted, graduation goggles, revertigo, lawyer, and pregnancy brain. Now, this was part of that TV era when friends became found families and living in New York City during your 20s was actually feasible, but the content didn't age well whatsoever. We're not here to talk about that, though. We're here for the storytelling, and this show had some interesting points to discuss. So, suit up and grab your encyclopedia as we get into How I Met Your Mother. It's going to be legend, wait for it, dairy. To start, let's quickly go over how the show came into existence. Essentially, it's all based around creators Carter Bays and Craig Thomas's time living in New York City while working as writers for The Late Show with David Letterman. Looking for a way to incorporate the already existing sitcom model with a fresh take on love and romance, they based the characters on themselves, with Ted being Carter, Marshall being Craig, and Lily being Craig's wife, Rebecca, and decided on a simple premise of a dad telling the story of how he met his wife to their kids. Bays and Thomas were careful to avoid tropes and ideas that had already been played out 100 times on television, instead focusing on the lumps and bumps taken on the way to finding love. They found a cast with great chemistry, introduced a laugh track without a live studio audience, used the same director for almost every episode to keep things consistent, and the rest is history. Let's start off with things that worked well, and there are a lot, which absolutely lended to its success. The number one storytelling device used in this show that kept almost all the pieces glued together was having Ted as an unreliable narrator. And it was a great choice because leaning into it meant opening up a ton of doors for all the storylines. The plot lines and characters could get pretty wild, but it still felt acceptable because it was understood that older Ted was working from memory and was therefore fallible. There were even points when Ted conceded that he couldn't remember certain facts or facets, making it relatable and encouraged our ability to suspend disbelief. An unreliable narrator blended so well with a sitcom model as it created situations that could be skewed or rejigged based on the needs of the episode. There were fantastical elements that had no place in contemporary rom-coms like The Blitz or The Cockamouse, multiple points of view to see the story from all sides, or even outright lies to help a joke land. It also helped that there was an end to the main arc, so it was easier to accept Ted's tale since they were all leading to a logical conclusion. We weren't left wandering through a sea of stories, hoping it all pieced together at some point, like almost every other sitcom at the time. This also made the will they won't they of Ted and Robin's situation less tropey because we knew they wouldn't, but we still witnessed their journey of ups and downs. Because of this, and the fact that they were always searching for the mother, tensions were evenly balanced with humor and optimism as Ted explored romantic relationships and life events. Seeing the gender roles flipped and watching a man search for love instead of a woman was really interesting because we got to see the various ways the traits of a partner were prioritized from that perspective. Obviously, it was incredibly sexist, but we're not here to talk about that, right? Moving on to characters, most of whom I think were really well designed and developed. Chemistry between actors is always important, but the characters' arcs are equally persuasive, especially when intertwining with each other to support a larger narrative. Seeing the leads evolve by failing, succeeding, plateauing, risking, and compromising made the storylines credible enough that we could accept the shenanigans and antics. It was also neat to see long-running story arcs and callbacks like the slap bet, Robin Sparkles, and Barney's father, and it never felt like there were any loose ends by the final season. Nearly all of the characters played well off each other, with deeper histories and connections revealed as the seasons continued. Even characters that seldom had solo storylines like Robin and Marshall had enough intersections within the group's dynamics to support practical relationships. It's kind of like how Chandler and Rachel didn't have much screen time together, but we never questioned it since there was enough cohesion as a group to make the stories work. And, playing on the unreliable narrator of Ted, they got to impart their own brands of storytelling, whether that be twisting or exaggerating truths. Consistency tends to be key with storytelling, and the show operated within its own set of parameters, rarely, if ever, straying outside the lines. My last point on what worked was the ending, a piece I know that had mixed reviews from audiences. Finding the mother at the end of the penultimate season was great as it allowed us the time to see how she meshed with the group. The final outcome of her dying wasn't great, but I understand why this was necessary. I believe originally the show was supposed to end with Ted and Tracy meeting by the train tracks, but I'm glad it was changed because it didn't give us the closure we needed. Bringing the story back to Robin closed the loop of the main arc, which we always thought was about the mother, but then realized was actually Ted and Robin's love story. It was an interesting twist on romance that no one was expecting, which was probably the reason it elicited so much negative feedback. Maybe it would have been helpful to see any sign that Ted was sad or depressed about the supposed love of his life dying, but from a storytelling standpoint, it all meshed well together and completed the arc. Ooh, now to talk about what didn't work, and it mostly comes down to one thing, or one person really. This guy, Barney. What a terribly designed and executed character. His storylines were outrageous and not in a way that matched the others. They were consistently dipped in lewd and gross behavior, which seemed to be the only thing he added to the group's dynamic. And it just didn't click. No one seemed to vibe with or appreciate his addition to their arcs, and there was a constant undercurrent of disdain from the other characters with respect to his philosophies. His boorish behavior rubbed off on the others too, leading to bad decisions and uncharacteristic choices. The Barney-Robin relationship was a poor attempt at keeping him engaged with the others, but it was all rooted in ridiculous acts that went against so many aspects of Robin's personality. It was just poor storytelling. They were clearly only coupled up because they were both single, and we'd already exhausted the potential of Robin and Ted after multiple failed attempts. Barney was more like a figment of Ted's imagination than an actual character, which is saying a lot since the story was already pretty outlandish. Maybe Barney would have worked as a secondary character or someone who shows up irregularly to add spice to the stories. But every episode we had to listen to him come up with a rule or a law or a quip, which I have no issues with because I think it's really cool that the writers coined terms that we still use today. However, if the character's main addition to the story is catchphrases, you might want to rethink things. Now, shockingly, all of that wasn't even my biggest beef with Barney. Deplorable pickup tactics and the garbage that comes out of his mouth aside, how he was used as a plot device ruined storylines. Again and again, Barney would step in as a deus ex machina to conclude an arc, usually throwing money or an underdeveloped connection at the problem to fix it. Now, for those who don't know, a deus ex machina, or God in the machine, is when a seemingly unsolvable conflict is abruptly fixed by an unexpected or unlikely source. In ancient Greek theater, a god was written into stories to resolve the plot and negate any other potential issues. I'd be fine with this if it were a one-time occurrence, but it happens multiple times with Barney throughout the show's run, including resolving his own major storyline regarding his job. His involvement doesn't have the same serendipitous nature as other chance encounters, like Cindy recommending her roommate to Ted for Robin and Barney's wedding, or Tony helping Ted get a job, or the captain offering Lily to be his personal art consultant. These aren't pivotal moments in the respective storylines, they're merely plot points to keep the ball rolling on a bigger picture. In Barney's case, he's the linchpin in concluding a storyline, and it's usually with a silly, over-the-top solution, like how he saved Robin from being deported, or effortlessly got Marshall a job when he was at rock bottom, or bringing Lily back from San Francisco to reunite with Marshall. Spending more time on Barney's character to make him more human, and less time on the ridiculous playbook, it might have been a little bit easier to forgive all of this. And that, kids, is all I have to say on How I Met Your Mother. I hope you enjoyed this one because it was really fun to dig into a story that revolved around storytelling. But thanks for watching, and remember to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. See you next time. Bye!